Hey folks, welcome back to another review with yours truly, Sam Healey, and today we're going to be talking about Aetherium. This is a two-player miniatures game that is also a board game. It's a board game, I think, that uses miniatures, although it's really towing the line between board game, miniature game. So basically it's kind of like Matrix the board game, because you are going to be able to control one of two different factions. One is called the Nanomai, and they are kind of the rebellious rank and file of the society. And then there's the Aetherium, the established ruling government of the age. And basically you have these two different guys, and you are using computer construct schemes and the quantum noise sounds mysterious, but you're basically fighting within computer programs. You're using RAM to do different things, to change this and to change that, and you're using all of these computation points to affect movement in the game. And it's actually a pretty neat theme. How does it play out though? Let me show you. Let's check it out. Okay, and we're going to say that the Aetherium player gets to go first. You can randomly determine what player goes and what order to begin with, but basically the Aetherium player is going to have the ability to activate one of their programs first. Then the Nanomai will be able to go and back and forth, and whenever all of your programs have been activated, each player would go through a recalibration when that occurs. So it continues just to go back and forth, back and forth. All right, so first of all, the Aetherium player here is going to activate their Grenadier first. Grenadier is over here, and we see here that he has 5 CS. We're going to go ahead and move him 2. So we'll go 1, 2. So he's used 2 of his CS cost. He has 3 left. And that's how much it takes to control a pylon. So we would take one of our faction symbols and place it underneath the marker. All right, so now we are controlling that. And that's the end of his activation. He doesn't have any CS points left. And so then it would go to the Nanomai. The Nanomai would flip over their program card. The Riot Girls are going to be going first. And instead of moving them first, we're going to choose to use some RAM. So we're going to use 1, 2, 3 RAM and move, or shift rather, that schema 3 spaces. And now we're going to actually activate the Riot Girls, and we're going to have them move and try to get set up for the battle. Now, the Riot Girls have an ability called I Go Where I Wish. Basically what that says is that I can pay 1 CS and not have to worry about the extra CS movement costs that are in these squares. So, and again, this is a segmented program, so they can all act independently. So we're going to spend 1 CS to use that special ability, and then go 1, 2, 3. And the second Riot Girl will do the same thing. And then she'll go 1, 2, 3. And then the third Riot Girl will do the same thing. But this time she's going to go, she's going to spend 1 CS and then 1, 2, 3 CS to go that way. It goes back to the Aetherium player. The Aetherium player activates their second program, which is the Praetorians. And in the Praetorians turn, the Aetherium player is going to use RAM to move that schema 3 places. And then the Praetorians will move. They have 4 spaces. So we're going to take this guy right here. He's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So now they can materialize next to this Praetorian. So we can just move these guys up like so. As long as they are adjacent to the figure that moved, it is okay. And that is the Praetorians move. The Nanomai activates their second group, and that is Tov over here on his all by his lonesome, and he's going to be doing something very similar to what the Grenadier did over here, and that is to control that pylon while he is by himself and able to do so. All right, comes back to the Axiom. The Axiom, their avatar is going to activate now, and she has an EXE program called Key to the City. It is a passive program. It's up there at the top of the card, and it basically says that at the beginning of her activation, she can materialize 3 spaces away into any unoccupied space. So we're going to go ahead and do that. She's going to activate 1, 2, 3, and she materializes there. And that is not using any of her CS. So she is then going to use her CS to put in, she's going to do the Royal Executioner, which basically says that a program can be given the ability to cause 2 extra damage on each of their damage levels during their next activation. So she's going to cast that onto the Praetorians. And so we would take the High Executioner token and place it on the Praetorians, showing that they will be able to use that ability next turn. Then the Nanomai will activate their avatar, and he's just going to get ready for the battle. So he's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When this last activation happened for the Axiom, they would have taken their cards and put them back into whatever order they wanted it to be. It did not have to be the same as the first round. It can be whatever they want. Then they would recalibrate their RAM. So the avatar gives them 3. Then they control 1, 2 pylons, so that's +2. So they would have 3, 4, 5 RAM to deal with. And then they would shift their activation over 1. The Nanomai player would now do the same thing, and then the Axiom player would continue. So the Axiom player now turns over, and they have the Praetorians activating first, who have this High Executioner ability. So, seeing we have this person here that has moved up, the avatar, we're going to go ahead and try to take advantage of that situation. So, we're going to move 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops. And the reason I had to move 3, 4 in this one, because it is adjacent to an enemy figure. That's called Evasive Movement. So it's +1, just like if you were walking through a resistor space. But remember that these guys are linked, so now we can place models adjacent to that model. Now we are able to attack. Remember that attacking does not cost any CS, and only one model in a linked program can attack. So I would not be getting any extra attacks on the Riot Girls here. I'm just going to attack the mask. So remember that we do have that Royal Executioner out there. And I'll put this over here so that you can see what I'm doing. We're going to be rolling 2, 3, or 4 is the possible number of damage that we'll be able to do. But each of those levels has a +2 on it because of the High Executioner roll, or the Royal Executioner. So I roll my 3 dice, and any hits. So I have a computer chip, but I don't have the lightning bolt or a skull. So I would cause 2 damage. +2 from the High Executioner ability that the avatar gave me. So that's 4 damage. and I did not roll enough disruption to activate that disruption ability, so that would not take effect, but I would cause 4 damage to the mask. Now the mask has a safeguard. It says before applying a damage, choose a friendly model within 3 squares. The chosen model suffers all the damage from the attack instead of this model. If the model from a linked program is chosen, then the whole program suffers damage. This model's still suffers all other effects. All right, so if we want to, we can have one of the Riot Girls take that damage. But hey, it's only 4 damage. I'm a big, tough guy. So we're going to go ahead and take it, and we would then mark off with the dry eraser 4 of the damaged squares in the box down there. And the Riot Girls now get to attack. So as the Riot Girls begin to attack here, we actually have rear arc attacks going. Now what a rear arc attack does is it gives you an additional die to roll for damage. So instead of just 3 dice, we're going to roll 4, and wasn't a bad roll at all. We're scoring 2 damage because since we only have 1 of these each, we can only use 1 of them each. The other 2 that we rolled really don't do any good. Now, since we did roll a disruption, we can use her illegal weapons ability and re-roll all of the dice. Which, let's go ahead and do it. Still get the 4 because it's a rear arc attack, and that was worse. So she only scores 1 damage. We were trying to go for that 5, but the Praetorian's safeguard says that he can reduce attacks by 2. Damage by 2 if the attack is successful. So we will do that to a minimum of 0 so he doesn't actually take any damage there. And this is how the game would continue until either, for 5 recalibrations for both players. Remember that. And whoever controls the node for this introductory scenario at the end of each player having done 5 recalibrations is the winner of the game. All right, first things first. Since it's a miniatures game and there are miniatures to be used, and they're actually not bad sculpts, but we do have to talk about the actual miniatures that are used. First of all, the plastic is not very good. I guess I'm kind of spoiled. I'm used to the kind of stuff that, you know, Cool Mini or Not or Games Workshop or Fantasy Flight puts out, and the level of I think quality with these models is lower than what I'm used to. They're very brittle. The plastic is very brittle. The sprues that the models came on were very chaotic. They looked like something out of the 80s rather than one of those sprues that was very, you know, organized and well designed. Just had flash going everywhere. Wasn't happy with the models. And then when I started putting them together, I was even more unhappy about them because pieces would break so easy. Not only are they very brittle, but there's certain parts of the models that are very thin. So if you put even the slightest amount of pressure in the wrong direction, there it goes. Second point I'd like to make is simply that this game takes a lot of room for a board game. Now, I know that I'm used to a lot of different bigger kind of games. I mean, Twilight Imperium, man, that takes a lot of room on a board. But that's also, you know, up to, you know, it's a multiplayer game. For just a 2-player game, this takes up a lot of table space. When I was playing it just last night with a guy at our gaming, our gaming meetup, we could barely fit it on the table. I mean, and when I say barely, it was hanging off the edge a little bit. So that's kind of a nitpick, but it is something that you have to take into account. Third, gameplay is actually pretty fun. Kind of cyberpunk feel to it, and that's interesting to me, and I think it'll be interesting to a lot of different people as well. But the theme really helps the gameplay work out. I like how gameplay moves along at a very fast clip, and there's not a whole lot of downtime between anything, really. You are simply working towards an end, and it moves at a very brisk pace. The attack dice, these guys right here, are actually really cool. And the attack profile, that was a very interesting attacking mechanic where I thought it was neat. It was a neat implementation of a different kind of die. It's not just six-siders or 10-siders or 8-siders. They're actually 12-sided dice, and I like the fact that they use 12 sides instead of some of those other more common size and sided dice. The EXE abilities, while they were somewhat cumbersome, remembering that they're there because they're on the back side of your card, that was, defense being used or being utilized rather in a safeguard thing where it's kind of like a static kind of defense that's always happening. That was interesting as well. The use of the front arc and the rear arc just adds another tactical level to the game that some other miniatures just don't have. Components wise, all of these tiles that make up the different schemas are pretty durable. They aren't warping or anything like that, and I've had this in my house for a while now, so that speaks to the level of quality that the tiles have on it. And then the other thing about having the effect, the terrain effects actually listed on the tile, that's a really cool thing. Something that I've praised Heroes of Normandy here recently for. Very similar to that, although I think Heroes of Normandy did a better job with it. This is also pretty good. Overall, as miniatures games go, and I'm a big miniature games kind of fan, I do enjoy, and I have enjoyed in the past, playing different kinds of games that have really good miniatures in it. As far as miniature gaming is concerned, this game is merely okay. I do enjoy the gameplay aspect of it. I think it could use a little bit of polishing here and there. And by polishing, what I'm talking about there is maybe having fewer abilities on some of the cards that you feel like if you're forgetting them, you feel like you're not using your units, your programs to their best ability. And that can become frustrating. I'm not saying dumb down, I'm just saying maybe trim the fat a little bit. I like a lot of things about the gameplay. It just seems like there's something there that's not quite right. Being able to shift and rotate those schemas, that was a really cool idea. And that was something that I think makes this maybe, lifts it up from that mediocre, normal, average scale and rises it just a bit above it. If you enjoy miniatures games, you really should, if you have the ability to. If you see it sitting on the shelf at your local game store, or if it's in a gaming library at a con or something like that, take a look at it and see what you think. Always, as I always say, try before you buy. But Aetherium, as miniature games goes, it's slightly above common, but does have some really cool themes and some really cool mechanics in it. So I think it warrants about a 5.5. I'll go ahead and give it a 6 because there are some really neat mechanics in it that I really did have a lot of fun playing. So that's that. See you on the flip side, folks.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.